Alright guys, let's talk about the TRM Bulldog. This guy right here is one of TRM's newer additions to their family of knives, and I think it's probably one of my favorites. Now, a while back they released the TRM Shadow, and the Shadow was one of their first knives to kind of include their version or their take of the axis lock. Of course, the patent on the axis lock or crossbar lock has been expired for a little bit, and there is no shortage of companies trying to take advantage of that and take their interpretation or their stab at the axis lock. Now, I think initially TRM knocked it out of the ballpark with their original Shadow. I had it, I loved it. It was a great knife and have no problems with the Shadow 2. It's when I say great blade, it's just not really quite for me. It was quite wide and a little bit on the narrow side. Now, certainly there's nothing wrong with that. It was a great slicey blade, but I think the biggest thing for me that I didn't love was just the width of the blade. So with the Bulldog, they went back to essentially the Neutron 2 style or architecture of design and made it an axis lock. Now, they did change a few things when they went to that axis lock. Of course, obviously they changed the locking mechanism, but they did make the blade slightly thicker. So it's closer to 1/8 of an inch thick, but still I don't think it's quite 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe like 11 thousandths, but it is a little bit thicker than the OG Neutron, and I don't really have a problem with that, especially because the high grind that they do on these guys is still plenty good enough for making this thing incredibly slicey. Now, things that they did keep with that architecture of the Neutron 2 that I loved was the very prominent forward finger choil here. You can easily put your finger in there and get a fantastic grip if you want to choke up, or of course still have a full grip if you want to choke back. So for me, I do really love that, and I think what is another cool feature of this is they did make this thing with the option to have micarta handles. Of course, you can see here that this is the red micarta handles, and they have a black micarta, if you guys can see there, spacer on the back. So pretty cool that they chose to go that route. Once again, you don't see a lot of modern folding companies or folding knife manufacturers choosing micarta, and there's some legitimacy to that. I think some non-legitimacy to that. I think it's a cool handle material. It works very well, and especially when you have, metal liners anyways, it doesn't matter as much. Now, other cool things that they are doing with the Bulldog as opposed to the Neutron is that they are going kind of the Spyderco route, where they are using recessed or inlaid steel liners. So you still have a very rigid knife. You can't quite see the flex, but there really is no flex to flex. So it's still an incredibly rigid handle because it has steel, liners, of course, but they are recessed into the blade so you can't see them, can't feel them, and I think that just adds once more to that kind of quality. It just adds once more to that quality of the blade. And once again, TRM, even from the start, was incredibly good, but they are now knocking it out of the ballpark with their blades. Absolutely incredible. Beautiful knives. I was even just thinking and admiring that this back spacer here is inset with no external screws. There are a couple screws, of course, for doing handle changes, because of course TRM loves the ability to do like different handle colors, variations. My Neutron 2 had black and orange handle coloration, so it is pretty cool. And overall, there's not too much more to say. The TRM Bulldog, keep wanting to call it a Neutron because it looks so much like one, but it is a really cool knife and very enjoyable to use. Of course, it is in CPM 20 CV, as I'm sure you can see on the side of the blade, so it is a good quality steel. You're going to get some good performance there, and yeah, there's really not too much more to say about this little guy other than it is totally worth checking out if you can find them in stock. Once again, TRM has quite a cult following, but they do make some extremely fantastic products. Their customer care as well is second to none. I think it is very good. So overall, the TRM Bulldog is a pretty darn cool little knife, and I don't carry it as much as some of my bigger folders because I do, at least at this point, tend to like my bigger folders, but it is a fantastic knife. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, God bless.